Hello again, people. Let's talk movies. It's been another big year for the summer blockbuster, and one in particular seems to invoke quite a lot of passionate responses from both fans and critics alike.
My father believed that if the world found out who I really was, they'd reject me. He was convinced that the world wasn't ready. What do you think?
What's the S stand for?
It's not an S. On my world, it means hope.
Well, here it's an S. How about
Excuse me.
Everyone said everything there is to say about this movie already. It seems pointless for me to try to add anything. But what does interest me is how mixed these responses have been. There seems to be no middle ground with this movie. People either love it, or people really, really hate it. Me? I thought it was okay. I enjoyed the film. But I acknowledge that it's not very good. It has many problems. Problems with pacing, problems with telling a linear story, problems with dialogue. It's kind of a mess. But I still kind of enjoyed it. It did bring up some serious dilemmas. I did really like the characters for the most part. And the action, though a bit too long for my liking, was actually pretty well done.
You believe
Even if it got a bit over the top near the end.
I will find him!
Like, really over the top. You know those scenes in the Terminator movies where they show the future and it's nothing but skulls and wasteland? That's what becomes the Metropolis in this movie by the end. Almost. For a couple of scenes and then suddenly everything's okay again. Would it take a week to build 100 new skyscrapers for Metropolis? As if there's any need to explain the story either. We all know the Superman origin story.
Goodbye, my son. Our hopes and dreams travel with you.
Carry on, my wayward son. There will be peace when we're done. I don't know, it just gives me flashbacks to last year. Another overblown, overhyped movie that people were talking about constantly, and then the day it came out, there was this great big split with people either loving it or people really, really hating it. Or what was that movie called? It was this overhyped piece of shit. What was it? Again? There it is, Prometheus. Yeah, people were talking about this movie a lot before it came out. They didn't know how to treat it. They didn't know what was gonna be. All they knew is that they wanted to see it. It was Ridley Scott's return to the Alien franchise. That's all they needed. And I can't help but think a similar thing has happened with the Man of Steel. Remember when the first trailer came out? I don't know, probably about the same time Prometheus came out. Everyone just saw the trailer and thought, wow, Superman's coming back and the guy that did The Dark Knight is gonna be a part of it. Nothing at all could go wrong. Why do I bring this up? Well, again, it's the reactions that fascinate me. Many critics gave Prometheus really good write-ups, and well, most of the Alien fans that went to see Prometheus were, for the most part, disappointed in it. Which is funny to me because I think the movies are kind of similar. They both have aliens, for one. They're both too long, for another. Both movies deal with trying to find answers. Prometheus tries to deal with trying to find answers to the existence of man, while Man of Steel tries to find answers into the existence of Superman. And I don't know, is it just me or are both movies filmed in constant blues and greys?
I have to believe that you were sent here for a reason.
I don't know, it just interests me. Particularly considering I did like Man of Steel a lot better than I like frickin' Prometheus. But why are people having this favourable response to Man of Steel? Well, that might have to do with the somewhat more recognisable things the film has. For most of the beginning of the film, we're looking at Clark Kent and his journey to discover who he is, while also having flashbacks to how he became the man he is today. His life in the farm, his relationship with his adopted mother and father. And it constantly hops back and forth between time settings. We've seen this kind of introduction to a superhero before. It's Batman Begins. Like, almost exactly. They spread their scenes a bit more evenly, I think, in Batman Begins, though. A lot of the times in Man of Steel, they just come out of nowhere or come too close to one another and they don't really add up. But perhaps some people, especially those who enjoy Nolan's Batman movies, recognise this opening and are immediately attracted to it because it's from both familiar territory, but doing it with another character. In fact, Nolan does this a lot with all of his movies, really. And then Nolan always ends most of his movies with an action scene. A half-hour action scene. People will instantly recognise it as something from Christopher Nolan. And as every fan will tell you, everything Christopher Nolan does is perfect. Actually, the more I think about it, this movie seems a bit more Nolan than it does Zack Snyder. It's almost like maybe Warner Brothers told him, Zack, just take a step back. Let's see what Nolan can do with a bit of it. I mean, it's not like you've got an important job. You're just the fucking director. Here's the setup for the big climax. General Zod and his army have come to Earth and they're gonna transform it into the new Krypton. And they have in their possession this giant machine on 3 legs that shoots beams into the Earth that changes the Earth's atmosphere to better suit their living conditions. A huge tripod. Aliens from another planet with a giant tripod-like machine invading Earth and changing it so that they can live there. There's something about this plan, but I can't put my finger on what it could be. Again, back to my comparison to Prometheus. At the end of the day, all I saw in Prometheus was one big setup to a sequel. The whole film, it sets up all these questions but doesn't answer them, but then gives you a hint that the next movie will. And that's kinda what Man of Steel does. And I'm not saying it's bad setup, like I said, I enjoyed the movie, but it seemed like we lost what could have been a really decent origin story in favour of simply just setting up this character's existence in this new, gritty, obsessed reboot. Well, Batman Begins was a setup, sure, but it still stood as its own individual origin story, and I don't think Man of Steel does that as well. It's still an enjoyable movie, at least to me, but I think what they put in for setup, we lost a lot in story. It does do okay in setting up the character and setting up the world where this reboot now takes place. And maybe that's why fans are so adamant to defend this movie. They're looking forward to the future. They want to see what happens next, where the character's going to go, what's the future of these movies. And I think I'm with them on that one. I'm eager to see where this series goes. Leave a comment below and tell me what you thought of Man of Steel, and are you excited about the future of this series? Let me know. In the meantime, see you next week. The chances of anything coming from Krypton are 1,000,000 to 1, he said.